Everybody. I'm Mark Annett, and thanks for having me here today. I'm here to talk to you about the lessons I learned from the Lean Startup Machine Newark, and it's a 72-hour competition that took place. It started on March 1st, and it was over an entire weekend. And the goal was to use the techniques by the Lean Startup Machine book by Eric Rice. And so everyone was expected to have read the book and then to practice the techniques over the weekend and to try and get as far as you can. Before I do that, I just want to give a little bit about who I am. I have a master's in biomedical engineering. I'm a patent agent. I'm probably more important for this group, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've designed spinal implants. I've worked on neurological stimulators and heart pumps. I own my own database company. It's ISP Mansis that provides services to agencies that serve people with disabilities. I'm a partner in Fast Speech Therapy, which is a system designed for measuring tongue strength. And I'm partnering with a speech therapist to do that. And we were a winner last year of NJTC's Life Sciences Food and Technologies Innovation Competition. I'm the owner of Annett Enterprises, which is really what I do for a living. It's a boutique design firm, an intellectual property firm. I am the CEO of Tips for Better Choices, which last Thursday was NJTC's app competition winner for the healthcare subcategory. But I'm here today to talk to you about being the chief product and vision guy for Snack Builder. And there's a lot up here on this. And if you notice, one of these things is not like the other. You know, it's kind of like the Sesame Street thing. This is the story of how I got to the last one and where we are. We are Snack Builder. Our mission is to change the relationship that kids have with healthy food by making them fun and engaging. And we're a Snack of the Month club. The package comes to you, the kid opens it up, and then they build their snack. And it's something fun. In this particular case, you're building a granola racer. We are a build, play, and then eat company. And the whole idea is to get kids to play with their food, to introduce them to healthier foods that they might not otherwise have tried or been interested in doing. And if we can change the relationship that kids have with healthy foods at a younger age, then they will be lifetime eaters of this product. So that's the concept in terms of what we are. Now, what I'm going to talk about is kind of irrespective of the product that we created. The Lean Startup Competition, again, it's a 72-hour kind of marathon. It's different than a hackathon. Where hackathons, you just go and you just try and create. There's a methodology that you're trying to follow, but it starts off with pitches. And for attendees, you have 45 seconds to pitch an idea to the audience. And then the top 10 ideas get to go through. And then the people that are there, if you weren't pitching or your idea didn't get selected, you then join one of the other teams. And you get to decide which one you're going to do. So what I pitched a cookie car. This is something that I built for my daughter's bake sale. I had a chocolate-covered sugar wafer there. I had mini Oreos that I used frosting to attach as wheels. I had a Teddy Graham as the driver. And I actually had, when I pitched the idea, I had the most votes. I had 18 votes. The closest, I think somebody had 11. So I was way above everybody else in terms of people liking my idea and concept. And by the way, the ideas ranged from, there was one guy who wanted to recycle products into things like backpacks. There was a person who wanted to connect people to better college resources. So there was a whole smattering of ideas in terms of the competition. So it wasn't, I mean, there was all sorts of things there. By the way, there's me, I'm the second person. The very first lesson that I learned, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the lessons I learned through the Lean Startup, was that passion brings people to you. And again, I had the 18 votes. So when we lined up, you stood there to try and get your team. There was 2 rows deep behind me in terms of, people interested in my product. The people that were in the second row said, "Oh, he's going to get a team." So they left to find other teams. And then what I did, because I was interested in learning the lean startup techniques, I said, the reason this idea is good is we can use this to practice our techniques. We can iterate with this, we can pivot with this, okay, in terms of this product, and it will be really good for us to do techniques. And the people that were standing in front of me said, "That's really nice," and then they walked away. And they walked away to people who were passionate about their product and what they were creating. And I was focused on winning the competition. And that was a quick lesson that I learned. And the team that I formed, and that was actually the best thing for me, there were 2 other people. One of the people that was pitching a real estate thing, the other person was pitching a device to monitor their elderly parents. They actually ended up with nobody on their teams either. So they ended up coming over, and we formed a team of 3 people to proceed with this product. And we talked about this in terms of, we selected my idea out of the others because it was the easiest for us to practice. And the 2 other guys were very interested, same motivation for coming here that I had. But again, I'm not going to make that mistake again in terms of the passion of the product. And that has to be the thing that you start with, and the love of what you're creating. As I mentioned, the Lean Startup has a bunch of tools. This is the validation board, which is the primary tool used. And what you do is you look at customer hypothesis. I want to focus on this one down here, which was the core assumption, okay, for your product. And our core assumption for this product was that kids will drive the sales. And what the story that we were telling is, we're going to put this in some kid's lunch. He's going to build it at lunch, and every other kid is going to come home and say, "Mommy, Timmy built us a car at lunch. I want one of those." And that we believe that the kids were going to drive the sales, and you need to get out of the building. And this is really crucial, and why I say it's different than the hackathon concept, is you need to go out and talk to customers and validate whether or not that's true. So the second lesson that I learned was I couldn't have been more wrong about the product in terms of what the parents wanted. Because we got out, we were in Newark, so we were heading down to the circus was in town, so we wanted to interview parents. And the first thing we learned is that urban parents were much more health conscious than suburban parents. And it actually kind of blew out our premise in terms of what we had heard about bodegas, and there was no value. The urban parents were either making snacks for their kids, or when they did purchase snacks, it was the fruit snacks. So they were very conscious. It was the suburban parents who admitted that their kids would sometimes snack out of boredom. And they weren't in as much control as the urban parents. But for the younger age, the parents were very much in control. And the parents really wanted healthy snacks. So my cookie car concept was kind of out the door at that particular point, because our customers were saying that was not what they wanted. They wanted a healthy snack. That was the trend. And the third lesson that I learned is the person whose idea it is the last person to pivot. And what a pivot is it's a change in direction. Okay, you were heading down this course and you want to go here. I did not want to leave the cookie car. I was like, it's a hula hoop. Well, how can I not win? All I got to do is, I'm just adding fun to a cookie. What's there not to be value in that? But my customers were saying they wanted healthier snacks. They didn't want a more fun cookie. They were trying to change the behaviors of their kids and engage them this way. So I had to pivot there. And once I pivoted, my job as the CEO and your job as a CEO is to kind of be the last one to pivot. But when you do pivot, your job becomes to pivot the farthest and tell the new story. And I'll bring this a little when we talk about the lesson number 4. Actually, let me back up a slide. By the way, what we did.
I just missed. Lesson 1 and 2. I missed lesson 1.
There'll be a summary at the end in terms of the slides, and you'll go back to. You'll be able to get caught up. And I'll make sure they stay there. So lesson number 3 was the person whose idea is always the last to pivot. The second pivot that we had was we actually, within the 72 hours, we made an arrangement to go out to a birthday party house and actually replace the cupcakes with our snack builders. And so we produced a product. Okay, within that, we packaged it up, we took it there, we ran the demo. Okay, this was on the morning of the 3rd day, in terms of, I'm sorry, the morning of the 2nd day. But the kids loved it, okay? They loved the product, and we took it to them, and they built it, and then we took it to the moms, and we asked them, because they were standing around, and we said, would you buy this for your kids' lunches? And they said, absolutely not, okay? Our kids do not have time to build a snack during lunch, okay? We would never, ever put this in our kids' lunch. But they said, what we would do is we would buy this for play dates and party dates, okay, as a time-engaging activity. And when we said, okay, well, then how much would you pay for this? One woman said $5, another woman said $10, one woman even said $20 for the exact same ingredients, the exact same packaging that we were thinking we had to be $1.99 or less to be in a school lunch. These people were now, because of the value that it added in terms of taking up time, were adding a tremendous amount of value to this. So it was no longer a quick, fun snack. It was a time-engaging, healthy activity. It was a play date in a box. And the next thing that I learned was that the team is more important than the product. And how this came about is I was the one cleaning up from the party place. And our CFO, who had been videotaping, went back to meet with the rest of the team, and he actually told them what was happening in terms of, what the parents' feedback was, what we found out. And I knew coming back there that when I got there, my team would have already pivoted, because they were always really easy, to pivot, because they didn't have the commitment that I had in terms of the product. So when I got back there, just as I got back there, one of the mentors, and if you are looking to talk to investors, this is a good place to go, because there are mentors that walk along to try and help you, so they actually get to experience and talk with you about your product on an informal basis. But anyway, this mentor walked up and said, I'm being a mentor, can I join you and talk to you guys and see what you're doing? And it's like, you can come and listen, but we just had something important. So we're going into executive session to discuss. And again, as long as you're willing to be quiet while we work this through, you can do it. So what we did is we went around and we started with our chief financial guy in terms of where he was with it, the product, and in terms of what his vision was. We went to our chief marketing officer, and in terms of what this new information and what the pivot meant to him. And then we went to our chief technology officer in terms of how he was going to implement and how he was on board. And then when it came around to me, all of them were on board with our new direction. But for me, what was driving back, knowing that my team was going to be pivoting, I had to know what the new story was. And what dawned on me is the kids are not the drivers of the sales. And who will drive our sales? It's the mommy bloggers and the divorced daddy bloggers. And if we get this information to them of a healthy, time-engaging activity, especially to the divorced daddy bloggers, which are actually our primary market for this because they're willing to spend a premium to do this, they will drive the sales, and it will be very inexpensive for us to drive sales to our products. And that was the holy shit moment, coming back, realizing what our new story was that we were telling. And as we got around and we told the whole story, when we came back, the angel's comment was, I'm in. Okay? And he gave us a letter of intent to invest right there. Okay? And it was not because we had a good idea, but it was the team's ability to pivot, to change direction, and to assimilate and move forward, which was what he was investing in, not the product, although he did also buy some product to take home to his kids. So again, the team is more important to this. I also want to emphasize, this is a slide. This was a typical angel selection criteria. This comes from Mario Casabona from Tech Launch. And Dennis, I know that you've seen this slide before. He was asked, what's a $2 million valuation look like? And I'll just go and this is the way he answered. So $2 million valuation is typically looking at tech companies. So you have to kind of do this. But there's a seed startup and early stage. There's a product or service or market need. Okay, so we determined what our market need, what our product wanted. There's a founder's commitment that the individuals are interested in this. They're looking that you've actually put in not only your time, but you've also put in your equity to this, and that you've actually committed to this. There's a sound business plan for building equity, so how you're going to grow. Okay, and if you don't have these answers to these questions, if you just have the idea and you don't know all these answers, you're not going to get the commitment from the angels in terms of funding. There's a strong, experienced management team. A proof of concept is achieved. There's an IP strategy for substantial advantage. And in this, he said, you don't necessarily have to have the IP in place, but you have to have the plans for the IP and how you're going to move forward and what you're going to do. Reasonable valuation. A lot of companies think that their product is worth millions and millions of dollars, even pre-sales. And this is pre-sales numbers, by the way. For a sweet spot, because angels are typically looking at getting between 5 and 15% of your company when they invest. And they typically invest around $250,000. So if you multiply it out, it ends up being about $2 million in terms of the sweet spot, in terms of working with angels for evaluation. There's a realistic exit strategy in terms of how they will get out, how you will get out and make money in terms of this, and you've thought about that. Funding needs for initial and then subsequent financing. You have to be cognizant of the fact that if you are going for financing, there's usually at least 2 rounds, maybe 3. And if you're not aware of that as a possibility, then the VC or the angel will actually know that you're inexperienced. And then there's also, as Dennis had started, to the geographic location. Typically angels or VC, they want to invest in something that's geographically close to them. So that's just the $2 million valuation and what it looks like. I thought that was a very helpful slide. Lesson 5 that I learned was to avoid vanity metrics. And I titled this Learn to Catch Chickens. And this one actually didn't come out of our first startup weekend. The Lean Startup, one of our prizes of that was we were actually, because we won the Lean Startup, we actually got to go to the startup weekend at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And one of our other audience members was there, and she did extremely well in that competition. So maybe that's a future speaker for you. But by the way, we had at the party place where we did this, we actually inked a distribution deal for them that they liked what they saw and they agreed to sell, our snack builder kits. And so this was all in the first weekend that we had done this. But this was we were so confident that we knew what to do. So when we got to the second startup weekend, we're gonna win this one too. And we actually prepared sales kits for our chief marketing officer. We had him the ability to process credit card orders, and we were going to go out and sell to all of the party places within the region and get the sales and come back, to show off to the competition. And so we spent, everyone was building product. We spent probably about 15 man hours getting the product kit ready for him to go out the door. And the very first party place that we went to, they're like, we don't touch food. We're so afraid of allergies and stuff like that. We let the people order it in, and they bring in the food. We don't serve food. The second party place that he went to, the same story. Okay, we had our vanity metric. We had, our letter of distribution, but we hadn't figured out how to catch chickens. We caught one. Okay, we had one sale, and we thought we knew what we were doing. And by the way, that's the riskiest assumption for us as a company, is that we know what we're doing in terms of moving forward. We now know how to catch these chickens, which is to go to novelty and gift stores that also sell party supplies. That's where the people will buy the product to take there. But as far as party places, the one that we went to was kind of special because the activity was building with Legos. So building food perfectly fit, okay, in terms of that. But again, so if you get nothing else, as you start getting your early sales, learn how to catch chickens, not just the one. Lesson 6, and this was a one that was pretty important for us, is to set your validation criteria before you go out. And again, I would encourage you to read the book Lean Startup. It's a great book in terms of what you do. So there's a lot to it, but as you're getting out the building, this was again something that we learned in our second weekend. We were trying to go out and get feedback, and a bunch of the folks went to Whole Foods, and they were actually pitching to them and then asking them if they would sign up and subscribe online. And about 45 minutes later, they come running back and said, "Mark, we need to pivot. We asked 10 people and only 2 of them said that they would buy online. That's only 20%. Okay? And then I said, in my CEO role as the person who's always the last one to pivot, and it's your job to be the last one, I said, do you know if 20% is good or bad? How many people for the Fruit of the Month Club do they have to see before they sign up? 20% could be an awesome number. It's maybe only 2% of the people that you do. But they went out to test something without figuring out the criteria for success beforehand. And if you don't do that, your ability to be swayed by these quick metrics, it can lead to your downfall and to lead to big mistakes. So again, what you're supposed to do in terms of the lean startup is figure out what your criteria is. So we should have done our assessment to find out what percentage we need to hit, in terms of what's typical, and then gone out and measured whether or not we actually were there or not. And if we don't get there, then you pivot. Okay? So what we accomplished in the 72 hours, we sold four units. We had signed a distribution deal. We had a letter of intent from one angel investor and a verbal commitment from a second angel investor who was there. We had pivoted twice, which was probably the most important thing, and that is what led us to win the competition. Some highlights since winning: we've added 2 team members. We now have a patent pending packaging method. Oh, by the way, I did not show the snack. Here's our outer box. The product The ingredients are inside, the directions are inside the box. This actually folds out, and there's a landing pad for taking pictures, okay, in terms of doing the product. So what we have in terms of a patent pending is adding a secondary snack as packing material. So no other company can come along and actually use a box with an edible snack as packing material. They either have to go in with non-edible or use something other than a box. Okay, so that's what we're patent pending on. We validate our technology. We've identified replacements for peanut butter. We're working on packaging. That's one of our big challenges right now. Peanut butter we want to get rid of because of allergies. Also because of the size that we're doing, it's very high in calorie content. So we're actually sourcing replacements for that. Validated our packaging, including web links, which I won't go into. We designed new box and received prototypes. And we've recruited and dismissed several potential board members, advisory board members. And that's probably one of the most important things that you can do in terms of your company, is to find good people to advise you and to help you grow in the direction that you want to do. Because again, the riskiest assumption, at least for our company, is that we know what we're doing and that we're not seeking the help or the advice from our customers, and that we're moving forward. So here's your slide in terms of the top 5 things that are there. Leadership and passion brings people to you, okay, and it's that drive and that love of your product. Lesson 2 was that I couldn't have been more wrong about your product, and that's one of the reasons that the angels or the VC are more concerned about team than your idea, because they know the product that you're coming in with is almost never the product that you take to market. It iterates and changes, so they're interested in your team's ability to iterate and change. Lesson 3, and this is probably the thing that's hardest for most entrepreneurs to realize, is that the person whose idea it is always the last to pivot, because you're so enamored with the idea and the concept that you've had in your head that it's hard to get there. And lesson 4 was the team is more important than the product, and then avoid vanity metrics and learn to catch chickens. So those are the top 5. Again, we're Snack Builder. Our mission is to change the relationships that kids have with healthy foods by making them fun and engaging. And we're a build, play, eat company. Thank you very much.
Sorry, questions? I was just take this. Oh.
Question about your experience with advisors. Were you offering any sort of incentive for having those advisors, or how?
The question was about advisory board members and whether or not you need to offer them an incentive. Typically, the way it works is you offer them between 1% and 5% of your company, and it's vested. Okay, so they have to stay involved in terms of getting that commitment. As far as time commitment goes, you're typically asking from them a 1 to 2 hour sessions, which are potentially over the phone. One longer, maybe 4 hour session to come to some conclusions, and then 1 full day. So you're not actually asking them a huge amount of time to do that, although they'll typically be involved in advisory capacity. And the quicker you want to exit, the more equity you give them. So they have a vest. That's just my own personal thing in terms of doing that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
You go do things like box prototypes.
The question was, where do you go to do things like box prototypes? We actually have a great box manufacturer at Sutherland Packaging. It's a family-owned business, and I just happened to be consulting with one of the sons, and I was helping him with his business and advising him, and I found out that he had a family connection to this box company, so that's who we're currently looking to work with, and we actually want to potentially move forward with them, but we also have some other box manufacturers that we're also supplying. So there's several in New Jersey. There's plenty. By the way, just as a pitch to New Jersey, I am trying to do everything that I can for this company in New Jersey, and to try and make this a New Jersey success.
My question is like extension to the my question. Like advisory board, right? Like for in the green startup, you meet people who are like completely strangers to you, right? So you build a team. What is the incentive for them to work with you?
In the lean startup, in terms of it, the way it works is if you've pitched the idea, you kind of have ownership with it. If you decide that you want to move forward with these people going forward after this weekend, it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to do that. In this particular case, because of the fact that it was the team and not my idea that got the commitment from the angel investor, and it was our ability to function as a team that was key, we all emerged out of there as equity partners.
Do you mind if we ask what the angel investor committed to your project?
Pardon me?
Is that personal?
That is not, I mean, I'm not going to divulge that in terms of what. I will just tell you what we are currently working on is we're working on putting together a small syndicate and of our box manufacturer, an angel who's interested in investing in the IT, and a third potential angel who's just interested in putting together money. And the reason it makes sense for the box manufacturer and the IT person who's coming in is if there is an exit, okay, the box manufacturer will stay. The person who's running the IT will potentially stay in the business. But the person who's putting the food in the box, and whose food it is, that will be controlled by the company that conceivably buys us. Yes?
You said your background includes a patent agent?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a patent idea. You were talking about how you need to know when, in order to know where to sell it, how to sell it, what the product should look like, it needs exposure. At the same time, you want to try and protect it. How do you balance that we were first to invent, now we're first to file. How does that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things, and this is maybe a separate conversation that I could talk you with it afterwards. But you can file a provisional application, which is not a provisional patent, to protect you. You can operate under non-disclosures. It all depends in terms of what you want to do and how you want to file. But I'd happy to be a talk with you offline about that. Anybody else?
We ask this question. What is the current valuation of your company? Is that the parent company?
That you're actually not allowed to disclose that to unless you are what's the word I'm looking for? A qualified. Unless you're a qualified investor, you can actually get in trouble with the SEC by talking about those numbers. Sorry. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Are you focusing on a particular brand or company? I'm assuming what's in that box is all going to be owned by one company. That's how they're going. You don't want to combine Quaker.
We're actually going to combine ingredients that make sense for the product. And in terms of not focusing, we do have some plans for some specific co-branded products, co-branded brands with some of the grocery store changes. So we're actually looking at doing that. We actually have 9 different distribution channels, all of which make sense independently for product.
Do you mind if I just look at that? Pass that around?
Sure.
One more question. Like is this like you have to pursue as a full time? Like once you have the green startup done, right? Is it something like you can until you garner?
Well, this actually, I wanted to, the question before where Matt was asked, why money? Why do you need money? The reason we want money is without money, we, the people who know how to create the value, will be working in the business instead of working on the business. Okay, and working on advancing the business and taking it to the next level. And if you have to spend all of your time working in the business, actually doing the grunt work, doing the billing, doing the invoicing, your business will never grow and capitalize. So at some point, you either need to be really rapidly successful so that you don't have to be working in the business, and then you can be working on the business. Thanks, everybody.